My wife called me at work, panic in her voice. Come home now. I rushed back to find police cars everywhere. My son ran to me, trembling. Dad, don't go inside, he begged, Mom doesn't want you to see. I pushed past him anyway, and that's when I discovered the horrifying truth. Chapter 1. The hum of the office printer was the only sound when my phone rang. Her number lit up the screen. I answered casually, but her voice hit me like ice water. Come home. Now it wasn't her usual tone, no sarcasm, no superiority, just raw panic. My chair screeched as I stood. What happened? But she didn't answer my question. Her voice cracked instead. Just come. Please, hurry. The line went dead. The 20-minute drive stretched into eternity. My mind spun with possibilities, an accident, a break-in, something with the neighbors. But the knot in my stomach told me it was worse, much worse. When I turned into our street, I slammed the brakes. Flashing red and blue lights painted the front of the house. Police cars lined the curb, officers moving in and out of the door I'd walked through 1,000 times. I barely had time to step out before a small figure darted toward me. It was my son. His face was pale, his little body trembling. He clutched my arm, eyes wide with fear. Dad, don't go inside. Please. Mom doesn't want you to see. My heart pounded in my ears. But there was no force on earth that could have stopped me. I pushed past him, through the threshold, and what I saw inside froze me to the core. Chapter 2. The horrifying truth. The moment I stepped inside, the smell hit me first, acrid, metallic, wrong. The living room, the same space where we once celebrated birthdays and holidays, was swarming with officers. Their radios crackled, the air heavy with tension. Furniture was overturned, glass shattered across the floor, an officer stretched crime scene tape across the doorway. And then I saw it, a dark stain spreading across the rug, like a wound in the heart of the house. My wife was seated on the couch, her face buried in her hands, an officer speaking to her in hushed tones. When she looked up, her mascara was streaked, her hands shaking. You shouldn't have come in, she whispered. But it was too late. The officer nearest me stepped forward, his tone clipped, professional. Sir, you need to remain calm. There was an incident. We're investigating a break-in, but there's more to it. He gestured toward the stain on the rug. My stomach dropped. And then, with a glance at my wife, who wouldn't meet my eyes, he added, what we need to understand, Mr. Thompson, is why your wife is saying you're responsible. The room spun. My son's trembling words at the door, her panic on the phone, the police cars outside. It all fell into place. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had set me up. And in that moment, I realized the horrifying truth wasn't what lay on the rug. It was the plan my wife had been weaving around me. Chapter 3. The setup. The officer's words hit me like a hammer. Responsible. For what? My mind reeled, but my instincts told me one thing. This wasn't chaos. This was deliberate. I watched as my wife dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her voice trembling just enough to sound convincing. He came home angry last night. We argued. And then this happened. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. Please, you have to believe me. Her performance was flawless. She painted herself as the frightened wife, the innocent bystander in a tragedy she had orchestrated. And the stain on the rug? That was her stage prop. Broken glass, a staged break-in. Every detail carefully planted to point the finger at me. I thought back to the phone call, her panic, her begging me to come home quickly. Of course, she needed me here. She needed me to walk into this crime scene, surrounded by police, confused, defenseless. She wanted me trapped before I even realized the game. And my son. His trembling warning at the door suddenly made sense. He knew something. He had seen more than she realized. But not everyone was convinced. One officer kept glancing between us, eyes narrowing at her rehearsed tears. When I locked eyes with him, I said nothing. Not yet. Because words wouldn't save me here, evidence would. And if she wanted a war of lies, then I'd fight back with the truth, one move at a time. They thought they had dragged me into a trap. But they had underestimated one thing. I wasn't just a husband betrayed. I was a father. And my son's trembling warning was about to become the key to turning everything around. Chapter 4. My son's secret. The chaos of the living room faded for a moment when I looked at my boy. He stood just inside the doorway, his little fists clenched, eyes darting nervously toward his mother. He had wanted to keep me out for a reason. I crouched down beside him, lowering my voice. "Son, what did you see?" He glanced at the officers, then back at his mother, who avoided his gaze entirely. Finally, with a trembling breath, he whispered, "Dad, it wasn't you. It was Mom. She told me not to tell anyone, but I recorded it." On my tablet, my chest tightened. Relief, pride, and sorrow all tangled together. He was only 7 years old, forced into a nightmare he didn't deserve, yet his small voice carried the truth that could save me. When the officer who had seemed doubtful approached us, I rose and spoke clearly for the first time that night. "My son has something to show you." The boy clutched his tablet like a lifeline, opening a file with shaky hands. The screen flickered, and there it was. A recording. My wife's voice, sharp and panicked, echoing through the speakers. "We'll make it look like he did it. Drag him back here. Once the cops come, he'll never walk free again." Gasps filled the room. Even the officers froze, exchanging looks. My wife's mask cracked instantly, her tears dissolving into wild, stammering protests. "That's out of context. He doesn't understand what he heard." But the damage was done. The truth was out. For the first time that night, the room wasn't staring at me like a suspect. They were staring at her. And as my son clung to me, the weight of betrayal burned hotter in my chest. Because now it wasn't just about proving my innocence. It was about delivering justice. Chapter 5. The arrest. The room shifted in an instant. What had been her stage turned into her trial. The officers who had once stood ready to question me now turned toward her. "Ma'am," one officer said firmly, "you're coming with us." She lurched to her feet, mascara streaking, voice shrill. "No, you don't understand. He made that up. He tricked our son." But her words fell on deaf ears. The recording was undeniable, her voice crystal clear. The very trap she had laid for me had snapped shut around her. Her brothers, who had lingered near the doorway, stepped back like cowards, their loyalty evaporating the moment police eyes turned on them. The click of the cuffs echoed through the living room. My wife struggled, screaming accusations. But the officers ignored her. For the first time, she was powerless. No inheritance, no fake tears, no lies could shield her. My son buried his face against my chest, whispering, "Is it over, Dad?" I kissed the top of his head, "Almost, son, almost." As she was escorted past me, our eyes met. She expected rage, maybe even a sense of triumph. But I gave her nothing, just silence. The same silence she had demanded when she tried to erase me. And in that silence, she realized the truth. She hadn't destroyed me. She had destroyed herself. But the arrest was only the beginning. Because when the dust settled, I still had a choice. To walk away quietly, or to make sure her betrayal left a mark she'd never erase. And I already knew which path I'd take. Chapter 6. The Revenge. Beyond the arrest. The police had taken her away in handcuffs, but to me that wasn't the end. It was just the opening act. The betrayal was too deep, too deliberate, and too cruel to let her slip through with only a criminal charge. She had tried to erase me and destroy my son's trust in his father. That demanded something greater. In the weeks that followed, her lawyers tried to twist the story again, to paint her actions as desperation, a mistake, an exaggeration. But this time, she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. With my son's recording, testimonies from the officers on the scene, and evidence of her reckless spending and shady dealings, which I had quietly gathered long before, I built a case so strong that even her own family couldn't defend her. The divorce proceedings tilted completely in my favor. The house, the savings, and even custody of my son, all awarded to me. She left the courtroom not just defeated, but stripped of the very life she thought she'd stolen. But the legal victory was only half of it. In our community, whispers spread faster than flames. Everyone who had once seen her as the perfect wife now saw her for what she was. Manipulative, greedy, and dangerous. Her friends stopped answering her calls. Her own siblings distanced themselves, unwilling to be tied to her disgrace. And every time she tried to rebuild her image, the truth resurfaced. Her own voice, caught on that recording, plotting to frame me. Months later, she appeared at my door once again. No makeup. No arrogance. No entourage. Just a broken woman whispering, "Please. I've lost everything. I don't want money. I just want to see our son." I looked her in the eyes and gave her the same calm, cutting reply I had given the night the police came. "You should have thought about him before you tried to destroy his father." And with that, I shut the door. Not out of anger, but out of the same silence she once used against me. In the end, the horrifying truth wasn't the stain on the rug, or even the trap she tried to spring on me. It was that she underestimated the very men she tried to destroy. She thought she was ending my story. But instead, she became the cautionary tale. A woman who lost her freedom, her family, and her reputation. All because she tried to bury the one person who had carried her for years. And me. I walked forward with my son, stronger, calmer, and unshakable, because real justice isn't in rage. It's in watching the guilty choke on their own poison. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you have think about this story in the comments below. Like the story. If you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy.